I'm trying to give everybody a sort of a sense of where these things are located. Now, if we scroll to the next page, Becky. So those two catch basins that I mentioned are on the left there. So that's just the detail of pulling out the existing pipe, putting in new pipe. We will be putting in plastic pipe, high density polyethylene pipe. The box on the right there is an area where of the swale. It's about midway down the swale, and it's an area where there is a catch basin that outlets there in a pipe, and it's pretty scoured up. I think it's a fairly steep part of the swale, and so what we're proposing to do there is to excavate it out, put in stone similar to the stone that we've been putting in on the short-term repairs. We are doing some grading in this location, and we've created a small sediment forebay. So the water that comes down that swale will be contained in the sediment forebay over top. And then since our meeting on the 13th of December, what we've done to change this a little bit is we've extended the rock going down the swale because we went out and found areas that had failed. So we've extended that down. The kind of squiggly line that you see there is the tree removal. And then we've also, the two arrows up top are important because the turnpike is right there. So the contractor is going to be able to access this area down the slope, do his work, and remove those trees, but not any further tree removal.
And the reason, the choice for that, the reason for that location, what Peter is pointing out, is we can access this area from the pike, so we don't need, unlike the work that we've done on the short term, we had to come in from an abutting property, and there was some disturbance there of that area and some tree removal. So Peter and I actually went out there subsequent to our meeting on the 13th, walked that swale again, and we did, again, this is the reason for that selection of that area, that access area, because there should be less impact coming in, again, from the pike, rather than having to go through abutting properties.
Anything else to add about that? Okay. And then if we can scroll again, Becky. So then the top plan here is a detail. You can see the turnpike in the upper box. That's the south side of the turnpike, and at the very there's three catch basins in this area. It's a low point in I-90, and so they typically put three catch basins at the low point. The one on the left is the one that failed over a year and a half ago and slumped into the lake, which has been removed, and that pipe's been taken offline. What we're proposing is to install pipe across to the next catch basin and then come down the slope, install a manhole at the bottom, and then come out at a very level, flat rate. What we want to do is reduce the velocity. And it'll outlet into that stone swale there. Another feature that we've improved upon since our meeting on the 13th is we've called for all of that asphalt swale to be removed and replaced with stone. And then the right edge is the third catch basin where we're removing the pipe, and the outlet pipe stone is already in place, and then that plunge pool is already in place. Okay, can we scroll to the next? So if you drive around to the north side of I-90 on Hamilton Road there, you can see the water coming from the pond by the Rod and Gun Club under Hamilton Road. It comes and it goes, it's an open channel for, I don't know, 100, 200 feet, and then it flows into a culvert under I-90. You can see the stone there. That work's been done as part of the short term. There was a asphalt swale that had been broken up and failed. So we've put that stone in, and I think the contractor did an excellent job because he's got the stone in the swale and it comes down right down, because the topography, it drops off like 3-4 feet right at the side of the stream, and so that's all lined with stone. So it should be very stable. On the left side there, that big square that you see is an existing detention pond that's been there, we think, for 60 years. It's got a fence around it, so it's difficult to get inside of it. But there is an outlet pipe, which is corrugated metal, and we will be replacing that in its entirety with a new riser. And the other details there are compost filter tubes and silt fences and some of the construction details.
Ponds. How are the 2 ponds?
I should mention that we are also going to go in and cut all of the vegetation flush with grade. And the reason that we don't want to disturb the mat of the pond and expose a lot of soil. So we cut everything down right at level with grade and remove all the shrubs and trees and things that have grown in there over the years. The ponds seem to be operating fine.
Has anyone looked to see how much silt has accumulated in them? That was one of the questions that we had at the last meeting.
We've looked at that on a number of occasions, and it seems to me as though it's pretty well vegetated over. There really isn't any what I would call exposed sediment. Seems like it's.
But I think that's something that could be done if, when the contractor's in there removing all of the, cutting everything down, should there be sediment, that's the time to remove it.
Right, I guess it's something the commission could consider. If silt's built up in those ponds, water's not gonna infiltrate, more water's just gonna
Right.
rise up and come out. We'd rather see it stay in the ponds and infiltrate. I mean, I don't think the vegetation is a concern, it's just more the silt and sediment that's built up in there. I think that's
If
something.
it's been there for 60 years, either it has no silt and sediment in it, which is a problem, or it has silt and sediment in it, which is a problem. So.
Well, after, as
Yeah.
Peter indicated,
Yeah.
once we get in there and do some cutting,
Yeah.
we can evaluate.
I agree.
In fact, that we were out there last Thursday, and it was, say, 40-degree temperature, and there was water flowing into the basin, but I don't remember seeing anything within the basin, which leads me to believe that it's infiltrating.
Okay. Now, since we're just talking about it, the pipes that lead from this basin into this one, has anyone looked at those? 'Cause
Well,
weren't
we
sure.
weren't able to get inside of the basin. In fact, there is a gate, and over the years, somebody put a guy wire right in front of it. So,
It was actually opened up today
oh, was it?
by our maintenance staff. So
Good.
we have looked at that. Most likely, we will replace that other
The other pipe
pipe
too?
and riser similarly
Yeah.
as the other outlet.
Good.
Pipe is with the same
Yeah.
plastic pipe. So it'll be replaced, I think we're, at this juncture, we're looking to replace it in kind.
Okay.
Seems like it's working.
There's no, it's not draining underneath everything, is it?
The water that infiltrates into
Yeah.
it seemed to just be infiltrating into the pond and going down.
But it's downhill all the way there. I'm concerned that it could have found a new channel. I don't know, you'd know better than I.
Oh, again, that's something we can evaluate once we start to clear out a little bit.
Hey,
Work to
Hey, Becky,
Yes?
replace the pipe.
if I could interject, this is Raul, Raul from Cedar Lake Association. I have been there during heavy rain, and it almost appears to be a steady stream from one basin to the next basin and then out the pipe. So
Okay.
I definitely think all the pipes should be replaced, whether it's filtering down or whether it's just kind of running through those both areas, from one to the other, and that's why you're not seeing any water accumulate. I don't know, but it seems like it's a steady stream when you're there during a heavy downpour.
Okay, thank you.
So that to me, those are the main points of what we're doing, and the things that we've added on to it since the 13th meeting. And I,
Peter, was there any discussion about the delta that's in that pond that we were just discussing? Let me see if I can figure out how to use this today.
Tricky one.
Maybe it doesn't seem to be. But at any rate, the delta right,
Can you, the yellow button?
yeah, right there, in that, it says, it's got a cut going around it.
what,
Yeah, it's like
there's
an
a
island.
lot of stone, and I mean, it's a big 42-inch corrugated metal pipe that outlets.
Okay, from the Rod and Gun Club.
Right,
A sizable metal culvert.
yeah.
So are we referring to, well, I mean, that's a very gravelly soil there.
Yeah, I'm referring to right about here.
In the channel
culvert
itself?
comes down, and in the channel itself, it opens up, and then there's this, which they did do a beautiful job with.
I think I have a
But-
picture. Do you want me to pull it up if I do?
Yeah, bring it up.
Based on how much this was undermined, I'm guessing that that's probably where the material came from, and it's just deposited right.
Oh, in the center of the stream?
Right,
Yeah.
and the problem with that is that the water is
cutting.
flowing around it, and it's cutting into the bank, so I think it's gonna create a problem over time.
That's it right there.
Oh, okay.
That is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so instead of the water flowing straight through, it has to go around that
Yeah.
pile of sediment.
Increases the velocity.
Well, I mean,
No, it's not really, it's flowing from that pond, that impoundment above.
oh, you mean, in
I
the,
think we should talk to jurisdiction.
oh, so you don't have the 200-foot riverfront? Which core permit? Well, did you want to speak at all about the advertising and the schedule of getting this work done?
We've certainly had that discussion, and I guess maybe it's worth bringing up again, but, and again, I think it's important to emphasize that we're trying to get this job advertised in February. So we've been trying to, waiting, we've been taking in all this information and feedback.
Right.
And we'd really like to move forward.
Wasn't this discussed? I thought this was discussed.
I don't recall that. I know certainly the downstream side, which we did remove the
Yeah.
sediment some time ago.
Would it be a self-verification?
It could be, depending on size.
What does that mean?
So, depending on how much, so. A river is jurisdictional to the Army Corps if you're working within the river, and you need an Army Corps permit, but they do have a self-verification that if you're below a certain threshold, you kind of go through the process saying that you're not altering.
Threshold of dredge?
Yeah.
I think it's a little more streamlined, and that was the permit that we obtained for the work downstream.
In Cedar Lake when we dredged
Yeah.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
So are you saying that you don't know whether one will be needed to address this or not?
Well, a permit would be required. It's just the type of permit and the time.
The scale, yeah.
Length of time to get that permit.
So if you advertise in February, this is a fall project? Is that the timing?
We're advertising in February for this upcoming construction season. Because we've already delayed that resurfacing project once to incorporate these improvements. So I think it is critical that we
So it's,
come to an agreement on these recommended
Right.
improvements. So
Nope.
we can move forward to dovetail that with our resurfacing project.
but it would be probably wouldn't
Yeah,
start till after
great.
July 1st at least, right? So there's some time here, I think we have a few months at least.
You're right, but in terms of going forward with advertising the project, we really need to be in agreement with these improvements
Now,
so that we
Now.
can review them and include that with the bid documents.
well, maybe this is something that, if you agree, that could be done afterwards, maybe not part of this bid, but is agreed to a time frame to have something like this done. If it doesn't meet the time frames, I guess it's something you could consider.
Well, but the time to do it would be when they're replacing the pipe that's right
Oh,
there.
I agree.
Well, I guess I'm just thinking what we can do is look into it a little bit more, figure out the timing of the permit, what kind of permit would be required, and then how long it would take to get that permit, and whether or not you need to have that permit in order to advertise.
Right,
Do you know that?
because, I mean, this really could be independent in the sense of the permitting. I mean, if we were to obtain a core permit, it would be for just this removal of this material. And
Yeah,
I guess my point is, I don't want to delay the other, in terms of at least the documentation, putting all this package together for the bid package to be advertised.
yeah, we don't either.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't,
I think this can be done in parallel, I guess is my point.
all right. Parallel's always good. Go ahead. If any- Becky, you want to go back to where we were? Does that conclude?
Yeah, I think
That's what we have, unless there's
All right.
questions.
Great. Eric, you want to start?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm good with this. I
Yeah.
think you guys did a good job responding and putting together what looks to me like a really good plan.
Thank you. I mean, it's been a long road.
Yeah, I know it has. That's why I'm mentioning it. You did a nice job.
Yeah, I agree. I appreciate all the work you put into this.
Yeah, I do too. The changes there, that you made, I think I like a lot, so.
Thank you.
Going to open up to the public?
Liam,
Microphone. For the folks at home.
the folks at home, Liam Applebeck, 5 Cedar Pond Road for the Cedar Lake Association. I guess the only two things that we want to ensure as a lake association is, one, we definitely want these repairs to be made during the resurfacing project. We don't want to do anything to jeopardize that. Along the same lines, because of this now, I like the term parallel operation, and because of our long experience in trying to get this to fruition, what we would like to ask, and I don't know how that's achieved, is to ensure that the Cedar Lake Association, meaning Raul and the rest of us, are actually included in a walkthrough after this is done and before any kind of final approval is given.
Oh, yeah. That's no
But we would
problem.
like to be notified, because sometimes we don't know. I understand, you folks are busy, but we are volunteers, and then we find out that walkthroughs have taken place, and we don't know anything about it until after the fact. We would like to somehow be included in those
Yeah.
final walkthroughs.
Yeah. At least we can bring this thing with us for Raul.
Raul and his hip waders, but yes. Thank you.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Raul.
yeah, thanks, Lee, for saying that. I think just the other point of concern there is, we know that we'll want to participate in a walkthrough, but I know that we've expressed some additional areas that we wanted addressed and things of that sort. Part of the walkthrough also really should be to look at what was still not kind of up to total current standards, as we talked about in the meeting back in December. And if needed, we might put together a list of additional project things that need to be addressed after the fact under a separate project. But I don't want, nor do we at the Cedar Lake want to hold up, the repairs that you did put together, and certainly want to move forward with those. We just want the ability to look at it again after things are completed, make sure we walk all the different swales, and make sure that we're comfortable that we're there for the long term. And if added work is needed, we'll work together with the town and MassDOT to scope those things out at that point. If not, then we're fine. I just want to make sure we're looking at it with open eyes once we finish or hope to complete the project this fall.
Great.
Okay?
Anybody else in the audience like to speak? Okay.
If I may, just quickly, I just want to make sure procedurally moving forward. So we're going to do all of this remaining work under the existing enforcement order.
Right.
And when this is complete, the enforcement order presumably will be.
That's correct. Yep.
Right. And I think we can maybe provide a summary letter to date with that, but I think, right, the walkthrough, after the completion of work. I think that will finalize and we can look at it and see if there's anything that's been missed that we've talked about that didn't make it on the plans or get done in the field. And at that point, come back, reevaluate, and then be in a position to release the enforcement order. I think we'd have to wait for that and look at it. I just had a question. So I just pulled, this is the plan we looked at in December 13th meeting at your office. Now, you sent that email recently, December 30th, committing to extend the stone protection in the swale that outlets near the northeast corner. Does that plan set that you just said, is it update where the swale repairs will extend to?
Yeah, did it say northeast corner?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one where.
Just the other side?
Where it
Okay.
had been an asphalt swale.
Okay. So this swale, the eastern swale, it's still just like the section up on top that's going to be done at this point?
The one I'm talking about is the middle swale.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we did extend this, where it's showing repair swale,
Yeah.
to be 70 feet from the
Down.
outlet to
Right.
include the area that was broken up.
Okay.
And
On
then
the
on the
Yeah.
other side of
I like
Cedar
that,
Lake,
yeah.
we're going to remove the entire,
entire paved swale
yeah,
up
up
there.
to the fence.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wasn't sure if what we were looking at on that plan was the same as this, but you're saying it's 70 feet.
Yeah,
from
it's
the-
a little
okay.
bit longer.
It's where the middle, it's where the middle,
Okay.
the middle drain line is.
Okay. On eastern side. Okay. And then, I mean, a couple things that we talked about before too was that that potential vernal pool. We did the work over there, only on the state boundary. We talked about maybe having like a BSC wetland scientist maybe kind of going out and just evaluating that a little bit. I haven't heard anything about that. Is that something that can
We
be
talked
done
about
and
that.
send something in just
That's
to
okay, yeah.
to show that, if there's any impact there that we need to be thinking about from the sediment that's been washed down there. I think they did a great job up to the state boundary, but we didn't really evaluate anything else. So I think we just need to make sure we have that resource area protected too.
Anybody else? All right. Now, is this this is a public meeting? Do we need to close this and?
It's not a public meeting. No,
No?
no, we're doing this under old business.
Old business,
But,
okay, so let's
I mean, I think you need to
vote on it.
vote and if you support the plan they presented to move forward with.
With no further discussion, do I have a recommendation to?
I move to accept the plan as they've described it and as how Becky has had some additions.
Second it. Any further discussion? All in favor? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Lee.
Bill, can we just do a quick Route 20 update for the commission? Because since we've gone out there, sorry, I know. The Quinnebog River Route 20.
It is a new year.
Now that we've trapped you.
I don't have much more to share other than the catch basins. We went out there and removed some product.
Okay.
When I say product, I'm talking, it looks like there's some petroleum oil or something in there. That's been removed. We're having a contractor come in and vac out the remaining sediment that's in those
In both catch basins?
in the catch basins.
Okay. So I had emailed you not too long ago, but just gave some like photo updates because when we last discussed this last winter, we, said we would monitor this because we could tell that the area with the failed pipe, we weren't sure if it was historic or it was currently continuing to wash out into the Quinnebog River. We've been kind of keeping an eye on it. We can see that since it's been cleaned out. We don't have any sediment in there. Oh, Raul, we can let go of you now. I'll let you off the phone here.
Okay.
All right, thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep, I forgot about him there. So, it's something that we've still been looking at. We know that after the catch basins were cleaned, water was getting through this pipe. I mean, it also looked like in May when I had gone out there that this is Route 20's up here and the failed pipes down here that we had those open catch basins up here that water maybe was backing up and flowing over land. But we know that the tree stump, has been shifting. Not huge significant changes, I would say, since we first started looking at it, but water is getting through there. We see more of the pipe, so it's still a current issue. I know that you mentioned that the lawyers were looking to an easement, but you
Yes.
still have that concern.
We have one of our attorneys in Boston trying to determine if in fact there are any drainage easements in that area. I suspect that there aren't, just given the age. But I did have a discussion about this in the office today with the district maintenance engineer, and we've talked about, as weather permits, we might actually do an independent review and try to figure out the network, because it seems like there's an awful lot of drainage
Going into there.
that's directed to those. I guess there's actually two lots.
Yeah, right.
But I think we need to find the origins of. I think we want to take a closer look at the entire network.
Okay.
So
We know.
I'm thinking we're going to get an independent consultant to do that for us
Okay.
when weather permits.
Okay.
Yeah.
We know that, right, there's two property owners over there. One of them sounds like they have some drainage issues coming off of Route 20 that might be open to some type of easement to be able to help manage stormwater there. So that might be a good outcome in that area. That could be an option, it sounds
Yeah.
like.
I think we kind of need to get our arms around the extent of the drainage that discharges to those
Right.
properties. It's a very small segment that's Route 20. A lot of the other drainage is coming in from
Other areas.
other areas, town roads. So I think we really kind of need to, again, take a more comprehensive look at it.
Yeah.
All right.
I think Glenn wants to speak about it.
Glenn? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Clarity. Glenn Kravosky from EBT Environmental. We did send to Rebecca today a layout of where your pipes are coming into the western catch basin that we were looking at together with Matt and Mr. Rabida and yourself, Bill. And we see, and we'll pass it on, Rebecca
Yeah.
has it, I hear, independent reviewer, 6-inch corrugated metal pipe coming into the western catch basin from the west. A 12-inch, here we go, and there's photos that go with this. The vitreous clay pipe draining down to 35 feet into the property of Bonaventura, discharging out at that point with some sands. It's
Glenn, you want to
partially
grab a
clogged.
pointer so we can really see
Could I have a
it?
pointer? Thank you very much, I appreciate that.
They were easy.
So this is the western catch basin. This is the property line Bill was mentioning. This used to be, it was Fistio Realty Trust when it was Dan Proudy's. Let's see, what's that, what's the McClure? One of our state representatives, it's a McClure or something, this guy owns properties across the street. This is Bonaventura, here's the property. There's, up here would be down Holland Road, and across the street is 148. There's the property boundary. This basin was not picked up in 10 by, this is a portion of Burton Engineering's plan. That catch basin was covered and they didn't pick it up. We just added it on. This one they did pick up. They show it coming over to that. It's a green cone, and then it goes down to that tree and then eventually to the pond on the river. So this 12-inch vitreous clay pipe is running out of this catch basin down, broken here, was discharging over the surface and running down through. We found that break with a mini excavator. Thank you very much for the commission in that allowance under wetland regulations for test holes. So we did a small, couple feet deep. We found it. That's one of the pictures you'll see. This 6-inch again comes in this way. This is a 12-inch corrugated metal. It's fully open. It dumps into this catch basin, and that one goes out of vitreous clay, 12-inch over to here again. So that's the layout of at least this area. Most of the water, this is, if you see the photos, if Rebecca pulls those up now, if she could, it'll show that this has only got a couple of inches of airspace on the top. The rest is sand, and the 12-inch goes straight down, and here comes the photos that were mentioned in this little exhibit. We're hoping to work with DOT to arrive at a solution. Mr. Bonaventura is willing to work to give an easement for potentially to clean up their dirty water as it's running through Bonaventura's property. This is the pipe. This is 35 feet down. Let's see. This is photo number 1. This is where we did the little test hole as water was popping up. There was a spring to the surface. And we popped it up. There's erosion controls below it. We exposed it. That was a cracked pipe there. The rest of the pipe is filled. It appears that it went down to the stone arch and culvert underneath the mill. We actually looked in there, and I have a photo, and it's halfway into the pipe, I don't know, 35, 40 feet into the pipe. It's caved in. This pipe appears to go straight down to that, And then it appears to be going in that direction. We can't find it because it's underground. We don't have any pipes along the water edge that would show this thing discharging to the lake. So it appears it went into that old culvert that carried the water from the water wheel and then into the lake. It's defunct now, and we've got sands coming in, and this is dirty water coming off the road. And so there's the next photo, if you see Western Catch Basin. That's how filled it is. This is inside. This is the catch basin, filled to nearly the top. And the next one, maybe, there's a little caption underneath if you chose to see what it says.
Oh.
If within Western Catch Basin, 12, nearly clogged, 12-inch PCI. This is the 6-inch coming from west into that catch basin, and it does have some flow, pretty well clogged, drops into the catch basin. Next one. That's the 12-inch going to from the western catch basin to the eastern catch basin, and it looks light down here because the light from the grate is allowing light to come down. And then that's the 12-inch vitreous clay flowing from Route 20 into the adjacent property to the east.
Okay.
And that's Glenn Kowalski having a good time down in the catch basin.
You see any brook trout while you're down there?
No, but we're gonna make sure, hopefully, that the water getting to the river can support brook trout. Okay. Or in this case, creeper mussel, which is the rare species that we have to look at through our enforcement order to ensure that our water coming through our site is clean and not sediment laden to satisfy Natural Heritage Endangered Species Program with this problem of our runoff that we inherited potentially. And we're hoping, Mr. Clarity, if he finds the easement, whether it's an easement or it's a prescriptive easement, which has been thrown at me enough times, whereas for 20 years, if it's been dumping into our property through a pipe, whether it's a written easement, it's a prescriptive easement, because we could not directly tell them if they choose to push this on us to get rid of that pipe coming in our property because of the term prescriptive easement. If it's been going over 20 years, I have one on my property in Prince Street, and I have other ones. So you've probably heard of that prescriptive easement before. So it's theirs whether they have a formal easement, or, well, I'm not gonna tell their attorneys what to say. This is our take, but we're the ones receiving their dirty water. And we've gone to the point, and I'll just reiterate, that we're ready to grant an easement to Mass DOT if they want to continue dumping that dirty water onto our property with sediments and silts, probably up near 20, and not affecting our property. And then we would, I guess, whether they or however that works out, then it would have to be carried over to the pond in front of us. Or, because it's nearly non-functional the way it is, we would be just as happy as you cement it off and give it all to the next door neighbor, which I'm sure wouldn't be happy that he was then getting it all. But basically, he's getting it all right now, which is the neighbor to our east. And that's why that pipe, the 12-inch between, is totally clean. There's where the water's going. This thing is just weeping through into our property. It's 35 feet down from the catch basin into the property is where it discharges. So I think the map kind of shows it all.
Okay,
Thank
All
you
right,
again.
thank you.
thank you.
Yep.
So Bill will continue to
Yeah.
work on this area
As I
and,
say, I don't have a quick answer. I think
Yeah.
there's some more work that needs to be done, so.
Thanks.
all right, thank you, Bill.
Thank you. All right, where do you want to go to
6:15.
next? We are at 6:15, we are at 6:45. Yep,
In
go
the
ahead.
interest of saving time, the Sturbridge Conservation Commission will hold all public hearings tonight for work within a wetland, water body, or resource area, and/or within the 200-foot buffer zone to a wetland, water body, or resource area in accordance with the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, MGL Chapter 131, Section 40, and associated regulations, and the Town of Sturbridge Wetland Bylaws and associated regulations. You will not be reading the newspaper ad. Prior to opening the first hearing for each project, the applicant is to submit proof of notification to abutters within 200 feet of the subject property line and proof of the legal newspaper advertisement. If these items are not submitted, the public hearing will not open. Additionally, prior to the start of each public hearing, we will announce the location of the project, the applicant, and the applicant's representative. If any of the visitors have not legibly signed in yet, please do. Also, if any visitors are recording this meeting, please let us know. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I'll take that.
Take that. 4 Mount Dan Road, request for determination of applicability, rebuild portion of existing structure. The contractor is B. Cheney. Oh, B. Cheney's the owner. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Jeff. If you want to just go over, just give a summary of the
Sure.
the project. what you
Jeff
start.
Bonja. I'm the owner of Innovative Home Transformations at 49 Cricket Drive here in Sturbridge. We're representing the Cheney family. They own a seasonal cottage over on 4 Mount Dan Road. They've engaged us to actually do a kitchen and bath remodel on their property. In taking a look at the structure's not sound enough for us to be able to do the work, so we've engaged with the building department to look at how far back we had to go to actually get to something that was structurally sound. The determination was we had to replace the portion of the structure which I've indicated on the application down to replacing the foundations. What we're proposing to do is to remove the structure on that side. Being that it's so close to the edge of a property line, we're going to come in from the end, take everything down, put it in a dumpster, have it removed. We're then going to use technoposts to replace the footings. I've indicated those locations on the drawings, and then we'll rebuild the structure. We're replacing it within the original footprint and envelope of what was originally there.
Okay. Eric wasn't at the site visit. I have a couple of photos I can show you, so give you an idea of what it looks like. So what we're looking at here is obviously big alum. This is the front porch. You can see the change in the siding here. The front porch won't be touched. That will stay. It's just this back portion. Sorry, Steve. I think I got you in this next one, so.
A celebrity.
But you can kind of see it more. The bottom we could see, I mean, it's just on blocks. So for this project, I mean, it's the back portion you can see here of the structure. Like I said, the front is staying. It's going to be on piling, so there's minimal soil disturbance associated with it. I recommended that he file a request for determination of applicability, so that's what we have in front of us. I think that the nature and scope of this project is suitable for a determination, and because it's set back and it's behind part of the existing structure, which is not proposed to come down and be replaced, that it meets our standards for permitting. So I would recommend that we approve this project. I mean, I was just thinking very minor conditions. They do plan on doing the work this winter soon, so we know we get, snow, thaw, whatnot, a lot of disturbance in the ground there. So maybe just a straw wattle put up between the lake and the work area. I don't think it needs anything extensive like a silt fence, since it's very minor ground disturbance. But just something in place, especially if they'll be working over there and mucking things up, I guess, so. All right.
Eric?
I'm good.
Steve?
Yeah, I'm good with it. I was on the site visit, didn't recognize you without your snow blowers and.
Stephen?
One comment I have, that the tree that's located right here,
Oh, yeah.
that it was in that first, right there.
You mean me? Oh, no.
Hold on, it's back.
Actually, and Eric, so Steve's actually standing on the neighbor's property there, so that's how close it is.
No,
to the
and
property.
I switched.
Yeah.
The neighbor's right over there, watching closely.
So, is this tree being removed?
No.
Okay.
No, we'll probably be taking down any of that shrub, brush type of
Right.
vegetation.
Yeah, the vines.
But no, the tree is not intended to be
Good.
taken out.
That was
Would-
the only question I had.
Yeah. Will you be able to do this work without going on the neighbor's property?
That's the intent. I mean, there's a possibility we may be stepping on it or something, or have a ladder on it, but the intent is to stay away from the property. And I'll give you my card if you have any questions or concerns.
Yeah. All right. Would you like to speak on the subject, or you? No? Yeah. Ross? Okay.
I can talk to them,
All right. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. I have no problem with it.
So you're thinking we don't need a notice of intent for this, that give a negative determination? Is-
Correct.
Right.
I would say that this would be a positive number 5. It's subject to our local bylaw. I also, as I always do, the positive 2B, we're not approving a resource area delineation
Right.
as part of this. And then a negative number 3, with those minor conditions. You know, straw wattle, typical things, we put up a sign so people know you have approval for your project. Let us know when you start, let us know when you finish, things like that.
Great. Do I have a motion?
I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Since we closed the public hearing, any,
I move that we issue a negative determination with the,
number 5?
with the,
Negative number 3, positive 2B, positive 5.
yes, that's what I meant.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Any instructions?
Nice job, Mr. Hall.
Thanks, Jeff. Could you sign this for me, please?
Oh,
So Jeff, we'll
man.
issue the determination. We usually mail it certified, or you can pick it up in the office, your choice.
Okay.
So,
We're getting just a sign, you'll have a number for it that I can put on the sign.
yep, yeah, we'll have it ready by tomorrow afternoon. If you want it, call, let me know if you want to pick it up, or we'll mail it to you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you for coming in. All right, we are easily at 6:45.
Well,
Noted.
but, yeah, we're at 6:30 though. Don't skip
Oh, all
one.
right. Oh, I already checked it off, too. 6:30.
Who's gonna skip you?
Okay.
It's your turn.
48 South Shore Drive, request for determination of applicability, drilling a new well to replace the point-driven well. Represented by Green Hill Engineering, M. Lemieux, applicant. What?
You're here for that
You're
one?
here for that,
You're- For Mark?
Jeff?
Okay, if you
Yeah.
just, yep, sit up at the table and just, introduce yourself and can go over the project.
Yeah.
My name's Jeff Tassi. I'm here for Green Hill Engineering and Maureen Lemieux at 48 South Shore Drive in Sturbridge concerning the replacement of or the proposal to drill a new well on the property in the general location to the front. Well, I guess if the front of the lake, if the lake is the front, then it's the back of the house where the deck is. Would be the proposed, the current well there is surrounded by trees, and the electrical lines come in on the back left corner. If you're standing at the lake looking at the house, there would be the back right, the right side coming in from the driveway. So we can't really get a well rig in there, so we're gonna drill the well either in front of the deck or to the left edge of the deck, and then just bring a line across and come in the basement at the same point where it goes in now.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, I went out and I took a couple of photos for you guys to see. There's a cluster of trees that's shown on the plan. Looks
Right.
like you're far enough away, but I guess that's the question, if any. tree
Yeah, so the
removal-
electrical lines that run overhead over there
Yeah.
don't allow us to bring a rig in there and put a rig right there and drill at that point. So we want to move to the left side of the porch.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's even, you're moving the well shown on the plan all the way to the other side.
the left side
to
of the
left
house.
side. Okay.
Yeah, I went out there, when we first drilled this, we thought maybe we could do it in that general location, but
Yep.
when I brought the well company out there after we got the permit, I got the paperwork from you guys
Yep.
last week and went and met with the well company.
of
They
Health,
wouldn't
yeah.
even come and look at it until I had
Those
the
lines.
paperwork, so, but then they said that they could do it to either, there's like an entrance onto that porch right in the center, so we can do
Yeah.
it from that center line anywhere towards the left, the well company
This
said.
side.
Yeah, so on that side, correct.
Okay, so no tree removal.
No tree removal, nothing. There would be absolutely no disturbing of any land or anything on the property other than directly across in front of the porch. And then Maureen thought she had a drilled well or a dug well on the side of the house. So we dug it up and we're going to put we did a hand dig over there, and we're
Yeah.
going to just put a new pump in the well because she has a jet pump inside. And when we got there, we found the point. And we just thought that I was going to replace the foot valve and just fix it so she had more water. Because right now she's literally getting a trickle.
Yeah.
It's hardly enough you can use the kitchen sink, but you can't take a shower. So that's why this came about. The point well is a 2-inch point that goes in the
Yep.
ground, and we took the cover off of it. It's about the size of my finger going down there.
So maybe we can
Right.
just, for now, mark on this plan where the potential area is for us, since we
Yeah,
don't have
I
it
can-
on here.
I can do that. I actually
Okay.
met with the well company
Yeah.
last week. So and they told me where they can put it,
Okay.
where they
Right.
can get the rig in there. where
Okay,
they
yeah,
can
and
put
that
it.
whole area is open. They kind of park in that area
Yeah.
too, so there wasn't any trees just around the,
There's no trees
Periphery.
on that side of the house.
Any questions?
so and that's further outside of the 50-foot buffer zone anyways, which is good.
All right.
Alright, so maybe, yeah, we can just,
You want to do it with a pen?
yeah.
Okay, so there's an opening in the deck right here coming on, and there's a step right there.
Yeah.
So our proposed area is someplace in this area.
Okay,
Okay, and then once we get the well drilled, then we'll just dig a small trench across here and bring it in the same point that we come in now.
okay,
There's a finished bathroom in the basement down here, so there's no way for me to get inside of the house and get over here.
okay.
So I've got to bring it around to this side,
Okay, great.
okay?
Yep.
Alright, so I guess we could just modify, this plan does include digging a pit for all the spoils, et cetera. We can just kind of modify our conditions.
But I have to dig up over here anyway, because I have to terminate and cap that well.
Okay, but that's not gonna
Decommissioning
affect,
the well.
yeah, you're not gonna
So I'm
affect
gonna
the trees there.
decommissioning the well.
Okay, decommission that well.
All right. Anybody in the audience? Yes?
Just for the heck, because I think most of the time we all drill wells, right? We have a slurry sump, because I just finished drilling one
Yep.
earlier this spring, and as long as it was there, I was just curious about it.
Yeah, no, they show it on here. There's a spoils slurry pit.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And obviously that'll be instead of being on this side of the property, we'll move it and
Yeah.
we'll put a slurry pit on the other side.
Exactly.
And we'll silt fence along the,
Yep.
along the lot, the grade on that property drops off over towards the lake, but also down the banking on the other side. So we'll put a silt fence and all the hay bales that we need to protect that and a slurry pit in that.
Right,
on
and
that side.
we'll issue a letter with conditions, and those are all things that we include in there. Your
Correct.
sedimentation close. He's got a silt fence on here, but that wasn't enough. I was going to add a silt.
Right.
I've
I've already discussed that with the well company.
Yeah. Okay.
Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Okay, do I have a motion to approve the project?
So this is a
But it's-
determination.
Yeah, it's a
sorry.
request for determination,
Yep.
so same,
Same
Yeah.
thing. Positive
Yeah.
2B, positive
Right.
5, negative number 3 with conditions.
Yep.
So
With the conditions that you discussed. Changes in the plan.
Yep.
So did I get a
So moved.
and a second and, so moved, okay,
So seconded.
yeah. And discussion is taking place, all in favor?
All in favor? Nice job, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Not bad for my first time.
Right, sign that, please.
Yeah.
That was pretty smooth.
Thank you.
I'm gonna,
Thank
So
you.
are you mailing that, or am I picking it up, or?
Either or. We can do either or.
You been out skiing yet?
Well, it's actually, it would.
I can't ski, I just had shoulder surgery.
Oh,
you have
really?
your sling
Should
off.
be in my sling.
John go out?
No, you
No.
know. I just wanted to go see my daughter, Janet. Brooke moved out there.
Oh, really? Oh,
Denver.
great.
So I went out and
Family tradition, huh?
I skied with her.
Yeah.
Yes. We all migrate to the mountains.
Yeah, so, good.
So when should that be ready?
Tomorrow afternoon.
Now can I do 6:45? Beck?
Yes. Yep.
All right, notice of intent, DEP file number 300-1050, 198 Lake Road, raise and rebuild of a single-family home. B. Smith, owner, represented by Z. Gleiss, Existing Grade, Inc. How you doing? Yeah.
Good evening, my name is Zack. I'm from Existing Grade, representing the applicant, Barbara Smith, for 198 Lake Road. And this project had actually been before the board, probably about a month ago, where we did the well.
Yeah.
And so we've gone through and done some further analysis, and it turns out that to try and do a rehab of that house it's financially burdensome to the client as opposed to doing a tear down and rebuild. So this plan is proposing a tear down and rebuild of the existing house within the existing footprint. In addition to leaving the house.
Did we look at this on site visits?
Yes, we went out there. This was supposed to be on our last agenda, but we had, or the last two, they continued the first one, and then we had the weather. So we
Okay.
went out there November. I have some photos I can pull up from the site visit if you want to look at it again. I'm going to zoom in a little closer here for you.
Okay, yeah.
Do you want me to show you the photos real quick?
Yeah,
As a
go through it.
refresher? All right.
Yeah,
Not that one.
not that one.
No. So it has the porch in the front and stones
Right.
underneath.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah, that's just the front.
Yep.
That's all I have for photos.
Okay, now I know where I am.
Okay.
Okay, that first photo that you saw this is that existing covered deck, right, looking that way, and then the screen porch, and then the remainder was in the rear here. So in addition to proposing a tear down and rebuild of this existing structure, we'd be wanting to rebuild the existing wood deck right here that's kind of a stairways down the water. And we're proposing a walkway from what would be where the existing pavers are now to convert that into a deck, and then creating a walkway from there up to where the removable dock is, as well down to the stairs to water.
So just this is a revised plan that came in. It just includes erosion control. So if
Yes,
you notice there's a different date on
Yeah.
it, they added that on and sent the plan back in.
We do
so.
have proposed erosion control along the top of the retaining wall, and the original plan did not have the detail for that straw wattle. But this one
When
does
we
have.
looked at this, there was no discussion of anything being done at the water's edge. We were talking about the house.
Right. The plan had the ramps on there though.
Yeah, okay.
Original.
Well,
Or did you? I didn't see it.
because we had pulled it back because while we were still trying to figure out the financial cost of doing all of
Yeah.
this, we had pulled it back so that the plan that you saw last time was only for that well. I
Yeah.
believe everything on the house had been shut off at that point because that wasn't part of what we were coming before. We had a discussion about doing a tear down and rebuild of this house. The existing house right now, it's not a full depth foundation. It's sitting on, I wouldn't really call them piles, but it's more concrete blocks that it's sitting on. So that's why trying to do a rehab of this house, it'd be cost burdensome so that the proposed project, the house would be sitting on helical piles. However, the architect would design them to go in, but it would not be a full depth foundation.
So you're talking about, Becky, you're gonna have to try yours again. You gave me this one, Steve, huh? No, I got it. So this is mortar?
No,
here?
that's just shaded in so you can see it would be, Trex, the composite decking. So it'd be kind of a composite decking walkway from where the existing pavers are. This would be a composite decking and then a walkway made of that same material down to that dock. And that
So
would
you
follow.
gotta rebuild it, this is a new
That's
mortar
the
and stone?
existing. So it's yeah, I know it's a little deceiving on this, but this is the existing stone and mortar retaining wall that would not be touched for the project. And that this would be just a walkway from the deck made of that composite decking.
Okay. You fooled me, I thought you were. And this is,
That would be the same material from this deck, a walkway to get
pavers.
to this
Yeah.
rebuilt.
now the overall size is exactly the same?
Correct. Yep, for zoning, that the proposed house would be the exact same footprint of what's currently there.
Okay. Eric, what do you think?
So, just so I'm remembering this properly, when we had gone out there originally, this was to get the access for handicap access to
That's
the
correct.
lake, and there were going to be some mitigations made. Those concrete circles, are those
These-
going to
these
remain, or are
three-
those going to be pulled out?
There are those 3 concrete covers right there that we are going to be removing those.
Okay.
Same thing with the existing pavers, see that to be replaced with composite decking and gravel, so we're improving all of that in the front that's right now, you know, impervious. It would be made so that it could be pervious,
Okay. Good.
so they're all improvements that we're suggesting there.
Okay. Steve?
Our regs require an alternatives analysis if you're working that close to, that close to the lake. Is there a, I mean, I'd really appreciate what you sent around for us to review.
Right, and this is something that, right, we've brought up and talked about, so the structure as is, if it stays there, is grandfathered under the regs, but once it comes out, any new structure is subject to their regulations per their local bylaw.
Sure.
So as we know, we've talked about, you know, we have a setback, 50-foot setback for no new structures. So people can receive a variance when there are no alternatives and a mitigation is provided for. So what the regs say is that they need to review an alternative analysis for this. Why can't it be moved back? What are the reasonings for it as part of their decision process to grant a variance? So I think that they need to evaluate or see those options.
Sure.
As part of the process.
And I do know
so.
that if we were to take this house up and move it back, you know, the existing shed would have to be removed, and there is an E1 pump right in this area, where if we were to take this house and pull it outside of that 50-foot lake offset, we would be disturbing that and having to most likely move that. And we're trying to do what we can to avoid those sorts of impacts to the site.
Well, I mean,
That doesn't really,
that's not an alternatives analysis. I think we're done here until we see an alternatives analysis. I mean, just to the untrained eye, I don't see a problem. But you'd have to, that's the whole point of an alternatives analysis. Otherwise, I mean, we really can't do an assessment of the house and the rebuild where it is in reality without that. Would you agree, Mr. Chairman? I mean, I think
I don't know. You know, that's, I'm just one vote.
oh, okay.
So I'm still absorbing here. I was waiting for more people to
Okay.
weigh in.
Are there any trees planned for removal with
No.
this plan?
No.
But what about plantings down along the front in the 25-foot?
I mean, we don't have anything proposed, but we're open to planting along that existing retaining wall. Again, there is a large pine tree right here, there's
Yeah.
a 15-inch oak right here, and then, I mean, we can absolutely throw some plantings, especially with where we're moving this as opposed to grassing it, if that would be favorable with the board.
Right.
That would be good. That's, now, the composites that you're using for pavers, what is it actually that you're gonna use?
It's it's like a Trex material, I don't know if you've seen it. It mimics wood, but it's plastic, so it doesn't degrade over time. And then again, you do leave the, you know, the penny nail gap in between there for drainage.
There,
Right, you don't have that as a detail on the plan, though.
We
Yeah.
just called it out as Trex,
Yeah.
typical composite decking material.
That it was Trex. This-
oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else? Gentlemen?
I mean, I guess one
Yeah.
question is it possible to, you know, if you can't move it out of the 50-foot, can you move to the 25-foot, and then there's more area that can be revegetated? I don't know if that's an option that could be explored as part of that process.
I mean, we can certainly look at it.
But if you're, to Steve's point, this could be moved slightly this way, and slightly back. And, I mean, you know, a shed, in this day and age, people put sheds everywhere there. I don't remember looking at it exactly, but up to what size shed? We don't even have a zoning requirement on. Or a building inspector requirement, I mean. So that wouldn't be a real killer as far as moving it back. So I don't know. Well, an alternatives analysis makes sense, I think.
Could somebody explain that to me? What is an alternative analysis and what is the requirement? Does an alternative engineer need to do that, or can the existing?
No, he can do
engineer-
it.
He can do it.
Yeah. And he can tell us why it makes, there's no sense in moving it back, or why there's complete sense in
Why
having
it's-
it where it is.
Why it's a burden.
Well, I mean, I can answer a little bit of that now with just, again, leaving the house where it is. It's protected through zoning, because we would not be increasing the existing footprint of that house, where if we did pick it up and move it, now we open ourselves to zoning and having to obtain a special permit, where if we leave it where it is, it's a by
Yeah.
right rebuild.
Well, that's one. But
Well, what would be the zoning issue?
I'm sorry?
What would be the zoning issue if you moved it back? Why would the,
Well, because as this lot is currently pre-existing non-conforming in numerous aspects, doesn't have frontage area, the existing setbacks to the house, I mean, picking up the house and moving it, we'd still be outside of the setback, so it would have to require a special permit. It wouldn't be a by right build through zoning at that point.
So, right, it would require a special permit from
Yeah.
them. and
No, I
the ability for them to
understand.
grant it.
I was on the zoning board. Well, I still say you, just to my, I'm not going to say untrained eye, that house can be moved back and meet the side, it's non-conforming, but that is, keep moving that house and keeping or maintaining the proper setbacks, which you could do. I don't see a problem. I mean, we had many things like this come before us, and it doesn't change the nonconformance of the lot size and so on, and you're actually going to improve the situation by increasing your setback on the side. So, I mean, me looking at that, I just don't see a problem with moving that house back, either through your zoning board or through our regs. But our regs require, it isn't an opinion, our regulations require an alternatives analysis. It's not an opinion, it's a requirement. And my opinion is that it can be moved, but that's my opinion.
So, can I just ask, and maybe this is for Becky, based on the improvements that they're making to going from pervious to impervious, there is a net positive impact with this
Taking
plan.
those out. Right, I mean,
With
they
taking
are
this out.
increasing the decking in the front, which, decking, things like that can be allowed and would be looking for some type of mitigation for, so that might balance out allowing the decking in that
Really not
area
looking
too.
at an improvement. Can't do
Okay.
that.
There's-
You're not.
Yeah, switching
'Cause
the
you're doing
impervious
more
to
in the
pervious is
25
good,
foot than
taking
was
a
there
couple
before.
concrete things out is good, but right, that might counteract more structures
Yeah,
by the water, I guess, so you'd have to evaluate
they're good
that
things,
way.
but they're more.
Could I just say on the human side, the improvement, and I look at the protection of the recreation values as one of the things that you're here to do. So we have a nephew who's handicapped, and he's really not able to enjoy the waterfront at all because it's very hard to get around. I think you remember how rutted it is there. There's all kinds of,
Yeah.
And so putting that just very, you know, we're not disturbing the soil, but just putting something on top that could allow his wheelchair.
Oh, no,
to
we're not. That
move
wasn't,
around on
that wasn't, that wasn't the point.
Nobody's
Yeah,
arguing.
I'm
No,
just saying
that wasn't the point.
that there's an improvement to the property in a sense, because there's greater, you know, joy. It's something that somebody could enjoy more because they could get around a little bit in this.
Yeah, but there's more trauma to the lake at the same point, you know.
And I don't think they had a concern with doing the ramps. I
Yeah.
think that it
That
seemed like
was
everyone
not-
was okay
yeah.
with that, even with their last
Yeah.
discussion at that
Yeah.
meeting, so.
So, I don't know how you want to go. You guys want to,
Well, I guess the first thing,
you can ask for a continuation?
That's, if, you know, if the alternative analysis be something that we'd like to, I'd most likely request a continuation to
Yeah.
further
Okay.
investigate what we can do here as opposed to taking a vote.
I mean, if it's
How
necessary.
do you feel about this, Steve?
I don't know, I'm kind of torn about that. Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing that move
Yeah.
back for sure, but by the same token, it is everything within the existing footprint.
Right.
So,
And, yeah.
No foundation either, which, well, you
Yeah,
can't
no, that-
confirm that yet, right? You have to have
I
them look
did go
at
under
it.
and look at it. It is, again,
Okay.
it's a house sitting on what could be considered 2x4s on concrete blocks, so it's,
Right.
that's again why we can't really feasibly do the rehab, because it would require lifting the house
Yeah.
up, putting piles underneath, and then rebuilding on top of it. But
Right.
again, the architect would design up how many piles we need, but we'd be proposing those helical piles to
think-
reduce the impact. of-
Yeah.
Right, I think it would have to be, if you did get to the
Right.
point of approval of this, it would have to be conditioned on that, because digging of the foundation would definitely impact those
we
live
definitely would
mature
not do a
trees
full
up
depth.
there, yeah.
So what you'll find, if it's consistent with the other homes that we've dealt with in that area, is that you're going to have ledge underneath. There'll be some pockets of ledge under the house.
Sure,
You
yep.
know, so, you know, there's a big difference between putting in pilings and trying to dig a basement.
Yeah, no, there'd definitely
Absolutely.
not be a basement over
Yeah,
there. I don't-
so,
just to be clear, this is the property boundary,
That's correct.
and this is the
That's
normal
the
setback
zoning
requirements.
setback, yes.
yeah. Yeah. All right, so, all in favor of allowing a continuation? Okay, so,
Okay.
we'll reschedule you for,
It's gonna be January 21st, and we'll email you with the time.
Okay.
I think it's 6:45, but
Perfect.
I know, I didn't,
what's the width of that setback? That's not 15 feet.
It's 10 scale. It is,
That looks like,
still have.
I
it
didn't
open
realize that
downstairs.
that was,
that's a 15-foot setback line right there.
that is a small lot,
It's narrow.
narrow.
all right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. And we are,
Are we done with public hearings?
where are you at? Beck, where do you want to go?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Zach, I'll email you the time.
Okay,
All
perfect.
right.
Thank you.
Um, 9 Holland Road was here first.
All
That
right.
conversation might take a bit longer. We also have Pine Lake here too. They were here first. He's giving me a dirty look, so.
We'll be short.
I'm
All
just
right.
letting them know
All
what
right,
they want to
good
do. It's
quote.
up to them.
We got that, everybody got that quote? He's going to be short.
I think we said a lot of it during that Bill Clarity issue there.
Yeah, I guess to
Please introduce yourself for the audience. And
I can provide a little summary here. I think that might be useful.
I'll just introduce myself then.
Yep, go ahead.
Glenn Kowalski from EBT Environment Consultants, Inc., and Mr. William Cote, as the manager of the, go on, you can, manager.
Bill Cody representing Devon and Mentor on this property.
Thank you.
All right, so since the last time, just go back, we issued an enforcement order, some unpermitted work. There was a permit issued for the project. Things went outside of the scope of work on there. some concerns were raised. Enforcement order was issued. We've been kind of trying to work out some of that stuff that's been done out there since the last time that Mr. Cody's come in. They've obtained Mr. Kowalski to help them sort out some of the outstanding things going on there to address these things for ourselves, and also for Natural Heritage Program, who also had issued a permit when we issued our orders and conditions at that time. So Glenn has been out to the site a few times. He's really been looking at and working on some of the Mass DOT drainage issues. Stormwater was a big thing on this property. I'll let him in a minute provide kind of a summary. We heard a little bit earlier when Mr. Clarity was here and we asked him about it. Went into that a little bit, but we can talk about what they're doing to address some of the stormwater issues out there, and then also looking at some of the unpermitted vegetation removal that occurred and kind of what their plan is moving forward with that. So I did perform a site visit a few weeks ago with Mr. Kowalski and Mass DOT. We looked at all the drainage. Glenn talked about some of the stuff he's interested in doing out there as potential mitigation and some steps for moving forward. So, is that good?
Okay, thank you.
All right,
Yes,
you're welcome.
thank you very much. We just got involved with the project. EDT, thank you for, I got involved through, Mr. Cote had called me in, and we have been looking at your enforcement order, and it has to do with stormwater, creeper mussels in the pond, the mill pond, Quinnebog River Mill Pond, the drainage coming off of 9 on Holland Road, and also the drainage coming off of DOT. And our main there's a few thrusts that we've been working on. Was one when I first showed up and saw the heavy hydrocarbon discharge coming off of Route 20. My first case, and that's why I was down at Catch Basin to see what was coming into our yard. One, there was erosion coming into the yard, if you're familiar with that little, if you see that little exhibit that I gave you, because both catch basins were clogged with leaves and sand, they weren't functioning at all. So the water coming to that portion of the property was flowing into the property, and there we go.
Yeah, you want to just use this just to...
could you...
I have better things. What do you want?
You could use the regular plan that Burton put together in 10 that was used for the notice of intent 2.5 years ago by Paquette, if you had it.
Oh, I have it. I just got to find it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I know I have it here.
I have a copy of it here.
No, I have
All
it.
right,
Right
so I'm going to blow
Here,
this thing up. It's either that or my glasses. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So what happens here, again, you can see that 2010, Burton put together a plan. There was never a notice of intent for that plan. I'm not exactly, to this point, even, I've asked the clerk, I'm going to review your file, I believe Thursday at between 9 and 10. I believe the clerk, right? Is that one we're looking? So then I'll find out more about what Mr. Paquette was up to, who since then, about 2 years ago, he had unfortunately a medical issue, aneurysm, so he's no longer there, and Mr. Bonaventura eventually brought in Mr. Cote. And what happened was the two catch basins, you can see even one was clogged. That was not even evident when I got onto this project, maybe 3 weeks ago, Mr. Cote? So, right, so we went in here, we pushed the snow aside, we cleaned it out, we found the catch basin, and then we put it on the plan to show what was going on. Then finally, we went down inside the catch basins to see the direction of flow, which it discharges over here. But when these are both clogged, and it was leaves and debris, totally clogged, even this one was not evident at that time. We moved the material off to find the catch, then we discovered that one. That led to this 35 feet down break point, but beyond that, there's an erosion gully going down into the site like this, and that's because when these are totally clogged and DOT has not been maintaining them, the water coming down these directions went overland and caused an erosion gully going down into, where's that building where
That's
the
the
where the garage door is? Right here? Okay,
Right
so,
here.
okay,
Over here. Overhead.
right
door.
here?
Yep.
Okay, so it flowed all the way down with an erosion gully, went into that garage. Tell me the depth of the inches, 3 to 4 inches of sediment? Sediment. Then they put a pipe underneath. It's a corrugated plastic underneath and discharge, and there's a delta right here. And this water, eventually there was this overland flow. So we're looking at, I'm not
just to make a point of why we don't have additional paperwork today. There was a little error. We thought maybe, if I can say this, it happened, that we would have put a little bit more, we would have put more time. We're only trying to do 45 jobs right now, but who cares? But we were trying to put more time into this for today to come in with a little bit more paperwork than these 2 pieces of paper that I was developing for DOT to put the onus on them for this dirty water coming into our site, discharging at that point. Beyond that, the mitigation that we've talked about, that's a delta right there. That little hump, that's sand that's come into the site and just dropping in. So we're looking at, and just this is a verbal thing, we're looking at mitigation for the phragmites that's up on the slope. We're working on potentially removal of that delta, which is clear that it's come in. We have an enforcement order for clearing the vegetation so that they can come around. We have a letter from the fire department saying we need access behind the building. So this is only a few of the limbs on those young pines that are along there so we can get a fire truck into the site. And so we have that letter from the fire department talking about getting into here from that direction. Then we have the erosion gully, and that's why DOT is involved. What are we going to do with their water coming into the site that's dirty, hydrocarbon, colloidal, and discharging on that photo 1 that I gave to Rebecca. So we're going to work to hopefully either they take all their water or we grant them some easement to clean up their water. But we're hoping to push the onus on them too. If they, obviously, we're not going to put the basin if it's theirs, but our pleasure to give them the easement. But then also we'd have to be a piping system to come in. So that's why we just assume they block it off and this guy take all the water, but he probably is not going to want that. So that's our discussions on that water. Yes, Rebecca?
Yeah, one thing, Bill, you had mentioned maybe removing this pipe. It was something that was originally in, I think, the original permit that you guys issued, but there was a question about where the pipe actually came from. As it's shown, it shows it as a drain line here, but that's inaccurate. It's just from here to here. So, right, there's some discussion about maybe removing that as part of the mitigation.
As we're doing.
So I'll go back into, once we stop the overland flow, we make sure, I even had Bill clean this area up. We're going to clean it up really well so that it's going to be evident. Keep your catch basin grates clean, because we need the water. Personally, 90% of it is going from here to here to here. And then, obviously, it becomes this gentleman's issue to discuss with DOT. And we'll be talking to him tomorrow. Thank you, Rebecca, for his cell number. I did call him at his office across the street. I didn't get a call back, but we're trying to ensure that we're both working together because, as we know, there's some cutting that occurred this summer here, and I'll briefly go into that in a second. I just want to get back to what we will do here. We don't see a problem with I don't myself see a problem with getting rid of the pipe as long as we don't have overland flow coming down here, which then they needed the pipe to take it over here. And that's why there's sediment inside that garage, because that door was busted up and you just put a new one there because the kids were breaking in here. And they actually had a fire on the second floor of one of these concrete buildings where they were going. So now Bill's been charged to close this whole thing and keep the kids out before it burns down, like Anglo Fabrics or Moscovians, which then becomes a total cost for more cost if it burns. So we're working to clean it. We're also working on the historical mill complex aspect of this site so that we can clearly define what this mill is. That's just another side note that we worked on and Rebecca worked on and DOT and Denise Child and Kim Roth, and we have come up with, yes, this is a historical mill site, and I'm going to be at USDA tomorrow morning looking at their historical flyover maps to look at what we have from back in the 40s and 30s of the total site of this.
So,
that's a separate issue, though?
Yeah, no, just so the commission knows that, I mean, in the riverfront regulations, there is a section for exemptions for historical mills, and there is a definition, and I had Glenn brought it up, I inquired with DEP on it. So it's something that, can and probably does likely apply to the site, but maybe portions of the site. So we'll have to, moving forward, define where that exemption applies. And what DEP kind of had recommended, I said, well, probably would be something we could do through a determination process, or she had also said an ANRAD. So that way it's clearly kind of marked where we're looking at riverfront, which makes sense because it's a resource area. So we can continue to work on that. And get
for
that
the overall
out.
site to ensure that we have what is yard and what was never used as an original historic mill site. We actually went back, and Rebecca, and we went on top of the dam that's up the road, about 900 feet. I don't know who's been up there in years, but I am. I went there, and I also found the raceway. And we